is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is killer stuff from a band I am loving to death. That band, of course, is these guys right here. It's Night Demon. The album is called Curse of the Damned, and that one was called Heavy Metal Heat. And bringing the heat in this frigid fucking weather is Jarvis Leatherby of the Mighty Night Demon. Jarvis, how are you, man?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Trying to stay warm. I'm not too far from you here. We are actually leaving the greater Cleveland area on our way to Chicago tonight.
Very cool, man. Well, dude, everything that I've heard about Night Demon has literally happened in about the last, 2 months at most. And I have to say, not knowing anything about the band, the first thing that really grabs me is that you guys are doing you guys aren't following a quote-unquote core. You're not metalcore, you're not emo-core, you're not any of the dumb cores. You're just a straight-up old-fashioned metal band. And I guess my place to start is, how does a new band end up sounding like they came out in 1981 out of Britain?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the stuff that we grew up listening to. Through bands like Iron Maiden and Metallica, of course. Those were the accessible bands when we were younger. And, through them, we, started listening to their influences and realized why they were influenced by these bands. It's like, wow, okay, here's what's going on. So, growing up in the 90s and stuff, we were adapted this kind of musical style to things we were doing when we were kids, in school, and total outcasts for that. I mean, that shit had long sailed, I mean, we were growing up in the era of the hip-hop culture and baggy jeans, and, grunge was huge, and stuff like that. But even after post-grunge, I would say, because even though the grunge stuff was not, I mean, some of the stuff was kind of metal, and it did rock, and it was heavy, Mm-hmm. But, that was us then, and we kind of, nobody cared about it then. But we kind of always kept that spirit, and like hooking up with these guys now and doing this band, I mean, it was just a labor of love for us. It was something we wanted to do just for ourselves, really. And people caught wind of it, and we never thought anybody would even care, about this. Nobody. But pleasantly surprised that people do like it. That's why we're pursuing it full time here.
Sure. Now talk a little bit about your band's history, because there's not a lot of it, is there? You guys are what, a year and a half, 2 years old at most?
Yeah. I mean, 2011 is when we recorded the EP. Essentially, it was a demo. I mean, we had gotten together like maybe 4 rehearsals. Every time we got together, we wrote one of the songs. And our goal was just to write the 4 best new wave British heavy metal style songs that we could. Like, the best songs you never heard.
Right. And
put out an EP under this name, Night Demon. We just wanted to have a 7-inch record. That's all we ever wanted to do,
Sure.
So a year and a half goes by. We never even released it, and our buddies were just telling us, like, man, this stuff is really good. Like, you guys should really reconsider, kind of trying to do this band. So we did, and it's all been history, from there. But, I mean, we put a lot of work into it. It's definitely something that we've done straight since 2012, and even being at home, writing and promoting the band and just getting every opportunity we can for ourselves.
Sure. Now you've obviously caught the ear of somebody over at Century Media, and they're putting out Curse of the Damned. Talk a little bit about how that process went, as far as going from an unsigned garage band, more or less, to being on a pretty significant label for metal.
Yeah, I mean, we did have, when our EP came out, it was released on CD by Shadow Kingdom, who has distribution through Sony. There was a small record label in the Bay Area that did 7-inch. High Roller Records, which is a bigger label in Germany, they did an expanded 12-inch. So, I mean, we had already had some stuff going on with some other labels. But the Century Media thing, I think it was... they had gotten a new president over there, and this guy had put us on some festivals, and he had managed some really great bands that we knew. And I think it's just, it's cool word of mouth. It's what got us there. Because a lot of these labels, I mean, they are independent, and they act like major labels, and they do, and they have certain quotas that, they want fans to meet, I mean, you have to have X amount of social media followers, and you have to have done this, you have to have done this, and all that. we kind of seem to bypass that just because, you know, we were on the radar of these guys, like, sometimes, and they had seen what was going on around us, that I think, you know, they wanted to be a part of it. So, and definitely we are at the point now where we need help from some bigger business, you know, to step in and distribute our records, because we're no longer able to do that because we're gone all the time.
Right. Now, you know, you mentioned social media, and I'm always curious. I'm personally not a big believer in social media helping new bands. Just seems like there's a bunch of new bands out there that'll have 150,000 followers and sell 50 CDs. You know, what is your impression of social media? Does it help your band, or is it just something you kind of have to deal with now and then, or what?
It definitely helps us.
Okay.
It is. So you can't that people interaction that they have within those followers. You know, there's a lot of people that get followers through media channels. The media channels are pushing for this band or what, you know. I mean, people comment on stuff and we comment back. People write us personal messages, we write them back. You know, we've gotten so many opportunities through social media. It's ridiculous. Festival offers. Some people just use Facebook now. It's the new media.
Right.
You know. So, and people do follow us, and it does keep them in the loop with everything we're doing. You know, for example, in this tour, you have set times nightly and stuff like that. But even touring, what have you, we're very active on it. But it's only just talking about stuff that we're doing. You know, we don't use it as a soapbox for any kind of personal or political beliefs or any of that kind of stuff, you know. But, you know, like, we still have our own website, and I always think it's very important that you have to have, like, a landing page. You have to have somewhere, a central place for people to go to get information directly from the band, because social media stuff changes all the time. Like, we don't know how, I mean, you know, MySpace was the big thing before, and now, like, all the work that people have done on MySpace is null and void, you know?
Right.
So you always kind of have to have your own thing, which is what we do. So, I mean, social media is the way that people communicate, like, whether I like it or not. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, I've seen, you know, there's so many people I know that are off the grid that they don't even know about stuff anymore. They don't even know about shows happening. And they're like, what the hell, man? You know? But that's just the way it is. That's what people communicate. I mean, we're playing Chicago tonight, and I can't even find a damn flyer for the show, which is sad. I mean, we're on tour with Skull Fist and Elm Street, but there's a Facebook event page, you know? So, I mean, it's just the way it is. And you know, we're not running scared like the rest of the music industry. We're just adapting, you know. So anything, whatever medium people are going to use, we're gonna find a way to contact them through that. Sure.
Now let's talk about Curse of the Damned for a little bit. It's such a cool record, and it has even more than the music itself. It has that feel of the classic stuff, like that warm vibe. It doesn't sound digital at all. You know, was it digital, and was that sound itself purposeful?
Yeah, it is digital.
Okay.
What we do, we have some secrets that I won't talk about to analogize it. There is some analog in there. There is.
Okay.
But you know, I mean, we recorded the record in 3 days. We did it live. We didn't use click tracks. We didn't use headphones. There's no overdubbed rhythm guitar. We're a three-piece band. Like, it's very raw in that sense, you know, and we work with people who know the sound that we're going for. I mean, all of our gear is, like, made in the 70s stuff, you know, like,
right.
So we use the classic stuff. We know, I mean, sonically what we're going for as a sound. So, I mean, we really wanted to keep that live feel on the record, and that's why we did it that way. So it's definitely it's our intent to do that, and you know, bring back some of those classic tones, because I mean, they really were good, you know, and there's a lot of things you could do these days with technology, and it just doesn't interest us because everybody else is doing it, and it's a real letdown when you go see a band live. You know, we are a touring act. That's what we do, so we want to represent that in the best way possible. But you know, unfortunately, like, doing everything completely analog and using tape, like, there's a lot of constraints. It's really a lot more difficult to do these days. I've done a lot of recordings like that, and we still try and do that. I mean, maybe on the next record we'll go completely analog, but you know, we went the safe route, and you know, we financed this record on our own, and we did it independently before we were ever signed.
Okay.
I mean, the whole thing was packaged and ready to go before we got picked up. We already had a vision of what we wanted to do, so we just had to go and get it done.
Sure. Is it encouraging for you to see how much the quote unquote retro sound is coming back? And I don't necessarily mean only bands like that sound like you guys do, but I'm also talking about a lot of like the stoner stuff, the Blues Pills.
Oh man,
and
there's not even it's limitless. I mean, there's like retro like rockabilly or like, you know, who knows? Like it does excite me a bit, but I think it's just like, you know, with the internet, people get to choose now what they want to listen to.
Sure.
So I think that there's scenes popping up in all genres, all over the world, you know, of some kind of throwback. But I as far as metal's concerned, yeah, I do dig it. I do wish that there was more quality in it, though.
Right.
I mean, there are some amazing bands. Don't get me wrong, but there's more bad ones than good ones right now, and I don't want it to fall apart because of that. Because of everybody thinking that, oh, we can do this, but it's not that easy. If you don't have the knowledge of it or the feel for that style of music, like it's just not going to be that way, you know.
Right.
But I mean, look, like there's no other band like us, you know, and that's why we play with bands that are like maybe a power metal revival or a thrash revival, something like that, you know. I think it's cool that all these subgenres of metal they fit together. I love that, you know. I mean, that's such a great thing. You can look at the past and now from what is present and what's been taken from the past, and everybody can relate to it, you know.
Absolutely.
Like whether you're into death metal or not, you had to start somewhere,
right?
You know.
Sure.
So it's definitely been cool to see that, you know. The only drawback I think is what I don't like seeing is novelty bands.
Right.
You know, I don't like seeing bands that are trying to be a throwback novelty. I mean, that's always going to happen, but I just don't think it's good for the music. You know,
right.
I don't think it's a good sign of moving forward. So that's what we're, you know, I mean, that's the position we take on it. You know, we do love good. We think music was better back then. That's why we like it. You know?
Right.
We're not adapting the fashions of the time because it's not that time. You know, as much as I do love it and I love that stuff, you know, and I have tons of band shirts, and jackets with patches, you know, stuff like that. I mean, but it's not that. Like, we don't represent ourselves as a band with that kind of image because that would be faking it for us. And I think people would see right through that. I think that's what people do like about us. Like, we are somewhat current because we know what's happening today.
Right. Definitely, man. Well, dude, before I let you go, I have to ask you what's known as the traditional classic metal show question. We've literally asked over 1,000 bands this at this point, and as an old school band, you'll definitely have an answer to this. How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
Oh man, huge. I would definitely say, you know, being a bass player and a vocalist in a three-piece band. I mean, I can easily relate to him. Definitely his bass tone. You know, I always people compare my bass tone as a cross between like a Lemmy and Steve Harris or a Cliff Burton, something like that, you know.
Right.
But I play with a pick. You know, all my favorite bass players are finger players, like my top 5 favorite bass players. But I play with a pick, you know, and I definitely, like, Lemmy made it okay for me to do that. You know,
right.
Like, it made it okay to rock out and have that attack. And, you know, especially like the early lineup of Motorhead, I mean, I'm just in love with that. You know, I mean, it's very reminiscent of when we started, you know, and now we have a new drummer, but who's much more accomplished than our first drummer on the EP. But just having him on the EP, like, we had that real rawness about it, that real, like, kind of punk energy, you know, and just brought our metal knowledge into it, and it just made for a nice recipe of noise, you know?
Sure. Definitely, man. Well, dude, the new album is called Curse of the Damned. The band is called Night Demon, and as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a closing track from the record. So what would you like us to end the interview with, and maybe tell us a quick story about it?
Yeah. Do you actually have, so you have the whole record?
I have the whole record.
You have all the tracks. Okay, let's do the song Save Me Now.
Okay, and why that one?
This song is it's the last song on the album. It's more of like an album-oriented rock track, I guess you could say. It's kind of a departure from what you would normally expect from Night Demon, but it does have a really cool classic, kind of a classic rock meets like German metal Scorpions kind of sway thing, but it's a cool song, and it's definitely a good closer of the album.
Excellent. Well, let's check it out right now. This is Save Me Now. It's brand new stuff from Night Demon right here on your Classic Metal Show.